Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of the Lem Know Podcast, episode 5. In today's podcast, we're talking about the top 5 rookie receivers heading into this upcoming season. These young talents have made a name for themselves on the field, so please join us as we analyze their potentials and their futures in the league. Get ready to catch all the action and let them know about these incredible rookies on today's episode. All right, episode 5. But before we get into anything, how was the vacation? How was the holiday, Benny?
Beautiful, beautiful. Celebrating America's birth. It's great. Weather was good. Grilling some dogs and burgers. How was your fourth?
Full of food, fireworks, and cornhole.
I
Right,
saw
right.
your pictures by the pool, toes out. I see you.
Oh yeah, gotta let those things breathe once in a while. All right, but let's. Do you have anything to say before we get into it here?
Yeah, man. Today's episode talking rookies. I think it's going to be really good. I really like some of these rookie receivers. I think some of their situations are really good. I think you and I give a lot of info on different lists and different ways to help you in different like draft situations, whether it's dynasty, redraft. Some of these guys might give you value really late in the draft. I think it's gonna be a good episode. A lot of info.
All right,
So I'm ready. You ready?
let's get it underway. Number 5 for you.
Number 5, Kayshon Boutte. Number one name in the draft should be number one in your hearts. Um, LSU wide receiver, drafted the Patriots round 6. Um, you know, I'm reading the intangibles, Edelman vibes, Wes Welker vibes, just diamond in the rough type that the Patriots know how to find. Um, don't be surprised if he is climbing their depth chart. Don't be surprised if this is the last time we talk about him on this podcast. Yeah, he went late. You can probably draft him dead last, maybe not draft him at all. I don't know. It just depends how OTAs and camp goes. The tape on this kid is unreal. Um, with, I mean, the depth chart, Juju, Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, Thornton. I wouldn't be like this kid's good enough. He could be number two. I think Juju's pretty locked in there. But I mean, this kid was a freshman All American. He holds the SEC record for most receiving yards in a single game with 308. A lot of good receivers have come through the SEC. Um, I really, really think that he has a chance to do something. I mean, Bill O'Brien wants to throw the ball. Looks like the offense is going to look somewhat resemblance to what it did before whatever they did last year. And I really think if you can take a flyer late on this kid, do it. What do you have to lose? I mean, like I said, last round, great talent, great upside. I think by the end of preseason, we'll know if he's really going to have a roster spot there. It's a big gamble, but you know what? I think he could really pay off. Butte.
Well, what was that stat you said? He held the SEC record for most yards in a game.
I believe so. I believe it is 308 yards.
So just on that one alone, I'm going against the grain here. Um, Looking at his stats from when he was in LSU, the 2021-2022 seasons, um, he didn't go over 600 yards in those seasons. So it looks like
Lot of leg injuries. Lot of leg
so
injuries. And that's what we're hoping.
that one game alone uh, throws him out of the conversation for me. Um, doesn't didn't really put together an outstanding season since he's been at LSU. To be honest, his
Yeah,
best
the
season was 2020 with 735 yards and 5 TDs. Um, I think there's just better value out there. Uh, Obviously, I think he won't get drafted, but he might be a free agent pickup. But I still see him sitting low on that depth chart in New England. Especially DeAndre Hopkins hasn't signed anywhere as well still, and that's a big.
Yeah, the 2020 year is disappointing. It is a disappointing year. Didn't come back from the leg injury like we would hope to see, but he did end the year. I mean, 100-yard game against Florida and 100-yard game against Georgia. That Georgia defense, I mean, we know basically everybody from that defense is playing in Philly now at this point, but there's talent there. And I mean, if Bill in the Patriot way can turn him into, like I said, that diamond in the rough player, dynasty format, get him very, very late might be the best bet. Like you said, maybe, you get him as an undrafted free agent a couple weeks into the season. Patriots offense gonna be really weird offense. Like I said, Bill O'Brien might be the key factor in this whole thing, but
That
yeah, Butte, it's
that and do you have faith in Mac Jones? Still, you still riding out the Mac Jones?
the Mac Jones thing. I think isn't as bad as the offensive coordinator situation from last year. I think that was a dumpster fire to begin with, and he never stood a chance. That being said, it's gonna take the preseason. It's gonna take some playing around with to see if that really works out. But what do you got for number five?
Number 5, I have Cedric Tillman. Drafted round three, pick 74 out of Tennessee. He's a 6'3", 215-pound receiver drafted by the Browns. Um, got a couple of reasons I want to go over why I have him at my number 5 here. Deshaun Watson is the main reason. If he gets back to form, right there alone is a good enough reason right there. Watson in his days in Houston, if he can get there for this Browns team, it would ignite this team into a playoff contention. That being said, I thought Donovan Peoples Jones would take that number 2 spot, that next step for this Cleveland Browns team. But instead, Tillman might be that guy to take that number 2, number 3 spot there, depending on newly acquired Elijah Moore and what role he's going to factor in this offense as well. Also, hopefully, Tillman can stay healthy. He had an ankle injury in his senior season that needed surgery, but before that, he was a 1,000-yard receiver in 21 with 12 TDs. So I am excited to see how they use him in this upcoming season. If the Browns hit on this receiver in this draft, watch out for this offense because it could be something special with the run game and these wideouts.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tillman. I think I have him ranked a little higher on my list than yours. We'll get into that stuff later, but yeah, I really his ADP is as low as it is. So I mean, if you got a draft soon, you got a deeper league. I mean, you might be able to get him super late. I mean, and I think at that value, I think that's a flyer worth taking. I like him a lot. Big
He's
body dude.
he's definitely going to go late in the 12-man, 14-man leagues. You're going to see more of them, I believe, but definitely not if you guys are in a 10-man leagues. I doubt you're going to see him on certain rosters. Um,
Yeah.
I'd be
I mean,
shocked if
maybe
you
a
do.
psycho Browns fan, I think would be one to take him. But
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
I
pretty
I think
hyped. The new logo, so they might shoot a flyer there on Tillman.
yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. Or you sickos in your 16-man leagues, I could see Tillman going. But it's a flyer worth taking. I mean, I got no complaints with that. Like I said, he's on my list too.
All right, heading to your number 4 here. Who do you got on number 4?
Okay, I got Rasheed Rice. Round two, pick 55, receiver from SMU, 6'1", 204 pounds. Stop if you've heard this before. Chiefs draft Mahomes a new weapon. Will it pan out? I think this guy pans out. This guy's no Sky Moore. This guy's the real deal. I think that they got a receiver this time. He's 6'1", paired with a 41-inch vertical. And this is a direct quote from his scouting report. Amped up short area athlete who chops feet quickly and redistributes his weight, twitchy in space. Pair that with Mahomes' magic. It sounds like it's something that is going to be reckoned with. And, you know, with Juju gone, obviously Kelsey's there. Kelsey's going to be the wide receiver one, the tight end one, the targets. It all goes there. But there's targets to be given. And I think Rasheed Rice is going to be a threat. I think he's going to take his year-over-year growth he's had in college, his 2022 year, 96 catches, about 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns in 12-game span. If he can get that chemistry and be able to be the guy that Mahomes can trust, if it's a fraction of how much he trusts Kelsey, I mean, that's a home run ball. ADP 185, wide receiver 68. Again, if OTAs keep going, some tapes come out, maybe that ADP rises, but I think late round guy, definitely let anybody take their flyers on Sky Moore. You take the flyers on Rasheed Rice. I think Chiefs did all right here. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
I'm on the other side of it again. I think every year Mahomes gets a new weapon everybody's excited about. Even in like the run game, you had Hilaire was getting drafted in the first round when he came out. He's no longer there, no longer the RB1 there. Pacheco is kind of taking over that reign, and he's not that solid himself, to be honest. As a solid RB1, I'm starting every week with confidence. Same with the receivers. Everybody left. What's the last receiver you were confident in that Mahomes had was Tyreek Hill. Um, Before they were there, I don't think you could name him a receiver before Mahomes was Dwayne Bowe, really. Um, so I'm not taking that flyer or chance. I'd rather take someone I'm more confident in stability wise, that being late. Even Sky Moore, yeah, Sky Moore didn't have the greatest rookie season, but he did learn the system. He did flourish at the end of the season a little bit. You saw glimpses of it. So another season under belt, knowing the playbook, knowing what Pat Mahomes likes in certain routes, I think that's going to benefit Sky Moore. But who knows? Maybe he takes the reins over Sky Moore in that wide receiver position there. But I'm still leaning more towards Sky Moore than Rice.
I think some of the tape is really impressive on this guy, and I'm gonna say he's putting out impressive tape with intangibles that he has at SMU. I'm not thinking any quarterbacks at SMU are putting out what obviously Mahomes is putting out. I think, like I said, if they can build chemistry and he can put it all together, man, I'm intrigued. I will put it that way. I am intrigued. I'm not in love, but I am intrigued. So what do you got cooking up? What's number four?
Number four for me, I got Zay Flowers. Picked in the first round, pick 22 out of Boston College. He's a 5'9", 183-pound receiver drafted by Baltimore. Let me just say this first, get it out of the way. Um, just him coming in the draft, seeing him hold up the jersey for the Ravens, he gives me Hollywood Brown vibes, which is
Yeah,
not a
100%.
bad thing. It's not a bad thing whatsoever. Hollywood Brown actually made a decent name for himself in Baltimore, especially in fantasy with some of those big weeks he had. So he looks identical to me player wise, like Hollywood Brown. He has the ability to move up in the depth chart as well. Yes, OBJ is there, Rashad Bateman, but both these guys' seasons are usually cut pretty short due to injury. So he has a chance to move up right then and there. OBJ hasn't had a healthy season now in how long? So he's also a very elusive wide receiver, Flowers. So he's forced 40 plus missed tackles and shown he can also be a deep threat as well, which is crazy. 78 catches, over 1,000 yards, and 12 TDs at Boston College. But what interested me the most was throughout his time at Boston College, they did use him in the run game as well a little bit, which intrigued me. So I'm going to see if Baltimore as well uses them in tricky situations like that as well. That could boost his fantasy stock right up. And if he's also maybe a kick returner, punt returner, I know Duvernay is there still. Um, that could be an option as well.
Yeah, we were at the same draft party, and when his name got called, everybody was very confused. We thought Hollywood Brown was on the screen. We thought that that's who they took again, and we're flabbergasted. But yeah, like you said, the gadget play stuff. I think there was a year like maybe it was his freshman year, he averaged like it was like 7 yards a carry when he got to touch the ball. It's something crazy for a non-running back to get. It was, I mean, that's just an asset if that's something you're getting. And it looks like the league is trying to have. I mean, it seems like the whole league's making that switch that like wide receivers touch the ball. I think what was his name? Curtis Samuel at one point was leading the league last year in like in touches between receiving and rushing. Obviously, Debo started that trend before that, and the list goes on. It seems like everybody's starting to get that guy. So I mean, that seems like something Baltimore is not going to be scared to add to their offense. I like Zay Flowers. Again, it's a guy that's going to be on my list here soon. So
Now,
yeah, I
I
think there's
wonder if those gadget plays, I know this season they implemented those new rules about the handoffs. Was that only for the running backs or receivers? I know that will change a bit for his value as well for those gadget plays.
yeah, I think I again we're talking rookies, we're talking rookie receivers. I think as preseason goes on, I think as more tape goes on, and we live in a very viral world, it takes one catch, and these guys' numbers are going to go much higher than they are right now. I mean, we're not even really in draft season yet. So, yeah, the rule stuff, I'm not sure. Safe Flowers, I'm very sure of. I think that offense is going to be interesting. That's the word I'll use to describe that offense, I think.
All right. That wraps up my number four. Number three for you. Who you got cooking at number three?
All right. Like I said, you're going to hear about him. Now we're getting to him. It's Cedric Tillman. Um, dude's a monster, man. 6'3", 213. Um, if this was Jalen Hyatt, it might be my number one. Um, Jalen Hyatt is by far my favorite of the duo in Tennessee. Um, but Hyatt going to the Giants to me is a non-factor. I just I do not love that situation for him. Cedric Tillman, I do love the situation for him. If you watch the tape, the dude doesn't go down with one guy. It usually results in a gang tackle. And for a wide receiver that can break it loose, I mean that's huge. It's somebody that I really do think can get a lot of targets, especially if Watson rises to the MVP form that he's capable of, what they're paying him to do. Yeah, man. I mean, 4.5 40 gets faster through a 60-yard break. He doesn't just top out. I mean, you pair that with a 37-inch vertical. Dude's a threat. Dude's an absolute threat. You mentioned Peoples Jones. I do not think that Peoples Jones has panned out like they hoped he would. Um, Elijah Moore is definitely a dark horse. I think that he has a crazy amount of upside. If it pairs well into a new offense, then yeah, obviously Cedric Tillman is going to be the third option here. But I mean, in a 12 game stretch he had with Tennessee in 2011 or 2021, he had 64 catches, almost 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns, 17 yards per catch. I mean, if he didn't get hurt in 2022, that tandem between Hyatt and him, I think is hands down the best duo in the nation. I think, man, it all just hinges on what Watson are we getting. If we're getting elite MVP form Watson, I think that Tillman is going to be the real deal. I mean, I know Cooper's the number one. I don't think that that's even up for debate. Like, but Tillman is the real deal. Big body receiver. If he keeps his health intact and Watson is MVP form, Tillman is going to be one of the best receivers in this rookie class, I think.
I agree with you. It all depends on Watson. everything coming out of camp, they're saying Watson's looking like his old self. We'll see here coming up in preseason a couple of those series, and see how Tillman looks as well, because you know he's going to get some reps. You know they're going to look at him. They need all the firepower they can get. That AFC North is tough this year. All four teams, I mean, top to bottom, offense, defense, it's looking scary over there in the North.
100% agree.
But my number three here, moving on. You mentioned him in your a little bit while you're going over Tillman. At number three, I got Jalen Hyatt at number three. You say you don't like his situation. I love his situation. Picked in the third round, pick 73 out of Tennessee, 6 foot, 185-pound receiver, drafted to the Giants. Um, Seems like his senior season, he blossomed when Tillman went down to injury, like I said prior, with my number five. He ended his senior season with 67 catches, 1,300 yards, and 15 TDs. I have him ranked him 2 spots above his former teammate in Tennessee for a couple of those reasons as well. His wide receiver room in New York consists of Slayton, consists of Hodgins, and consists of Shepard. Um, which Hyatt not only is a deep threat, he can move up this wide receiver chart quick in a hurry. I project he's going to be the number two receiver there in New York, um, leaving Slayton to be their number one, who I think is an underrated wide receiver himself. But if Hyatt is that receiver you were just talking about, who's incredible, and he ends up being the next OBJ there in the Giants, having Slayton there as their number two ain't so bad either. Um, so I think he is in a good position. I am not a big Daniel Jones fan. That being said, but I did see a stat today about his accuracy, and it's up there in the top five. Apparently, the stat, I think Pro Football Focus threw it out there, which I actually was shocked about, because I'm not a huge Daniel Jones guy either. But just his receiver
Nobody should
room,
be.
yeah, his receiver room, and I think he has the ability to move up that depth chart, which gives him my number three spot.
Yeah, man. I without a doubt think he walks in as the most talented, well put together receiver in that locker room. I think the only real person he's gonna have to compete with there is Waller for targets. Um, but man, do I just hate Daniel Jones. The only real thing that could lead this to really working is like Barkley's whole contract situation, the holdout, everything. Like, I mean, other than that, I mean, if they really are going to have to throw the ball, I don't know. I just all I can say is I mean, it's only up from last year passing the ball. I think he finished with like what 15 touchdowns like passing last year. Like I can't believe they paid him and paid them what they did. So I mean, sure. I mean,
Yeah,
they're gonna have to use him. They're gonna have to do it. If Hyatt can be the guy, I would love it to be him. I think he's incredible. I really do. Like I said, if his situation was drafted to Cleveland, I think, man, the possibilities.
I
But
mean, I think if he didn't get drafted, I think he was the next off the board. He was picked just before his running mate there, Cedric Tillman. So I think
I can
Cleveland was
tell
looking
you,
hard at Tennessee in this draft.
every Browns fan that I know was wanting Hyatt. I mean, without a doubt, like they're like, oh, I guess we have Tillman, but like, oh, we really wanted Hyatt, and it's like there's reason for it. I mean, watch the Bama tape. That game's incredible. Like it's there's no hiding his talent, everything. I mean, it's just his wagon's hitched to Danny Dimes, and where he goes, you go, and uh, I, mm, I don't love it, but can't deny his talent. Great talent. So number two for me, we're going back to Zay Flowers. This Ravens offense, man. I think I said it was interesting. Uh, Zay Flowers might be the wide receiver one by default, just because no one else is left standing by week 6. This injury list is impressive, man. They paid Odell. I think that Odell gives you 3 to 4 games at the beginning of the year, and then maybe you see him again towards the end of the year. Bateman, same thing. Uh, he'll give you a game. He'll miss 6. Um, Duvernay, it's in his name. Duvernay. It's not Duvernay. It's not Duvernay. It's Duvernay. It's bad. He's bad. It's not good. And Zay Flowers, man, is impressive. Like you said, kind of small, very Hollywood Brown-esque, but he is already walking around at 10 pounds heavier than he was last year, like during his playing weight. So I mean that proves that like he's taking it seriously. He's putting on weight. He's getting bigger. So I mean that's got to lead to more success on the field. Like you said, they're going to use him as a weapon. I mean the draft capital, taking him in the first round. I mean they need what he offers. I mean, he walks out of Boston College as the receiver records, they're all his. All ACC honors. I mean, his scouting report says open field threat that's a dynamic playmaker. I can't think of something that Baltimore needs more. I can't think of anything that Lamar needs more than just that because they really haven't had it and they've been searching for it for a long time. I mean, they're just a team that is super talented, but consistently gets robbed of injuries. And if he can stay healthy, I mean, I think all the wide receiver one reps are his, all the target share is his. Mark Andrews is there, but I mean, that's just going to help draw coverage, give him more opportunities in different places of the field. And I mean, if you're just not familiar with his work, I watched the tape. The kid gets after it. ADP 131, wide receiver 53. Same thing with everybody else. I mean, it's going to take one clip, one tape. You're seeing all the workout videos with him and Lamar and everybody already. Like stuff like that is what gets people going and gets the ADPs moving up and down, especially this early in the year. Like by the time this comes out, his ADP might be higher, and it should be. I mean, honestly, like you said, that AFC North, it's going to take points to win games. It's going to take maybe Zay Flowers getting some rushes once the weather's bad in Baltimore or Cincinnati. Like the offense is going to be interesting, and Zay Flowers is going to be the thing I think that really makes it interesting. Um, yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan, and I think it's simply because they need him to produce like he has produced his entire college career. Um, I kind of know how you feel about it, TK, but
Yeah,
you got anything to add?
he's definitely a guy I'm gonna keep my eye on as the season gets closer and closer with the ADP, like you said. I'm intrigued by this guy a lot. I have him down on the list just because OBJ and Bateman are not hurt yet.
Yeah.
So he's currently sitting wide receiver 3. Um, that's why I have him at number 4. But I definitely to keep an eye out. Maybe he moves up the depth chart in preseason. Maybe a hamstring injury lingers for one of these two receivers. Who knows? But it's definitely a guy to keep your eye on, especially if he's giving you those Hollywood Brown vibes. Um, obviously, I think he's going to be a little bit better than Hollywood Brown, and
I
that's
agree.
going to be awesome for fantasy because Hollywood Brown had some crazy games in Baltimore with Lamar.
So, is your Falcons bias gonna let you say that he's the greatest athlete from Boston College of all time, or is it Matt
I would say he's the greatest athlete. The greatest football player from Boston College is Matt Ryan.
Ryan?
We'll go that route. But
Oh man.
moving on to my number 2, I'm gonna get a little controversy for this one because we're just talking about how people sit and how their situations are looking. At number 2, I got Jackson Smith. Um,
Okay.
Round one, pick 20 out of Ohio State. 6'1", 196-pound receiver the Seahawks drafted. He's a talented receiver, and yes, I know he's currently sitting at wide receiver 3 behind Lockett and Metcalf in Seattle, but this guy is too talented to be sitting there all season long, especially with them taking him in the first round. And using that first round pick on him, I can see JSN taking the reins at wide receiver 2 by the end of the season from Tyler Lockett. My only concern about this guy is if he can stay healthy. Um, he's had injuries all throughout high school to his college days. High school, it was his shoulder and ankle. College, it was his hamstring, which sidelined him throughout the 2022 season, where he only played 3 games. But in 2021, he had 95 catches, 1,600 yards, and 9 TDs. So that kind of talent, he was the first overall receiver taken for a reason. And to have those weapons, Seattle, I think they have now Seattle ranked what? Top 5 in offenses now with that young core with Kenneth Walker and them. It's going to be crazy in Seattle. It seems like all these teams are loading up on offense. It's an offensive league. We all know that. But defense is going to win games. But in fantasy, we love to see the offenses flourish.
Yeah. JSN, I will say, did not make my list, and it's not because I'm not interested. I'm interested. The only thing I'm not interested in is trying to figure out which week he's gonna pop or which week Lockett's gonna go down to give him some space. If Lockett's gonna be traded, I feel like there's just so much that needs to go right for him to give you constant like production. But if you get the production, it's gonna be good. Um, we dropped the nugget, of how many fantasy points that would have been produced by his historic Rose Bowl game. 67.7 points. I mean, 15 catches, almost 350 yards receiving, and 4 touchdowns. Like, by the end of the game, people were just like falling over, like, with him just like pretending to like do routes and run plays. Like, his talent is, I mean, there's no denying it, but like situational with fantasy to me, it's just too messy. Um, if it's a dynasty, it's a different story. I mean, I think he's talent that you get and you sit on because you can take a year or two. You can wait for that room to open up. Redraft, it's a little trickier because you need that production. But yeah, man, like you said, I don't think that there's a reason by the end of the year that he's not wide receiver 2 on that team. I think DK is 1. I think that that's undeniable. But I think that there's a reason they took him where he did, and I think they're phasing out Lockett, and it's sad because I think he's been a staple there. I think he's been a fantasy staple for a long time, but I think JSN's there, and I think in the next, I think if we have this conversation next year, a year after that, I think I'm way heavier on JSN than I am right now, and I think it's just because the water's a little too muddy for me in Seattle. A lot of options there. Charbonnet might get some passes, DK, Lockett, and then JSN. Man, it's just a lot of mouths to feed. I do agree. It seems the league's going more offensive based, more firepower. And like I hope he produces. I hope he does great things because he is a freak talent, man. A lot of fun to watch. But I think this year, unless some stuff happens, I mean, if Lockett goes down in camp or DK goes down in camp, I think we revisit this list, and JSN is definitely on my top 5 list. I think he's that close to being on that radar, but it's just muddy waters for me. And I don't think that it's a bad choice being on your list, to be honest with you. It's a preference thing,
Yeah,
and that's mine.
and to me, with Seattle sitting with, like you said, Lockett and DK, to go out of their way with their first round pick and grab a receiver anywhere just shows you how highly they think of this guy. So, are they going
He's
to
the
use
future
him?
for sure.
Are they going
For
to use
sure.
him? Undoubtedly, I think they're going to use him. It's just when and how, and if he can get that playbook down as quick as he can, I think you'll see him produce.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think it's definitely maybe the back half of the season, or if he needs to step into a role earlier, I think he'll shine in that role. I don't think that that's a debate. I just think it's when that opportunity comes, and yeah. So we're going to number one for your boy. Um, Jordan Addison. Um, Obviously, I mean, we're talking draft capital with Zay Flowers. I'm gonna talk draft capital with the Vikings. They don't care about defense at all. They just, I think their goal is to try to outscore everybody. And with the departure of Cook, I think that it's evident they're just gonna throw the ball. And what a great number two to pair with Justin Jefferson. If you've talked yourself into Thielen these last 2 years, you should have zero problem talking yourself into a rookie receiver. ADP 93, wide receiver 40. Like I said the other times, I mean, his ADP is going to be probably higher. He's a smaller guy. I mean, 173 pounds. Don't love that, but KJ Osborne has proved that he is not the guy. He's not the number two. There's just going to be such a role for him. I understand Hawkinson's going to get targets. I understand Jefferson is going to be record setting pace, probably just like he was last year. But there is going to be targets. There's going to be room for him in this offense. There's going to be coverages that are going to be favorable for him. He's, I mean, 2021 Blitnikoff Award winner. That's the award that goes to the best wide receiver in college football. He did that with Kenny Pickett. And Steelers fans love him. They love Kenny Pickett. If you go back, I beg you, please go back and watch the highlights from that year. This kid caught, I can't even tell you how many underthrown balls that were not where they were supposed to be, and still took them to the house. Still just made like hard plays that should have been easy, still took them to the house. The kid's a freak athlete. Freak athlete. His stats from that year: 100 catches, almost 1,600 yards, 17 touchdowns, 15.9 yards a catch. I mean, he's just going to be an asset, dude. And people were like not happy about his combine numbers. Dude, just throw the combine numbers out the window. I mean, just watch the film. I mean, I know a lot of people don't love Kirk Cousins, but like he's finished every year in the last 3 years QB 12 or better, and just at a sheer passing volume alone, I just think it's gonna happen again. And you just, I just think as a wide receiver two, as a rookie, it just is gonna be very, very good for him. I just think he couldn't ask for a better running mate. Couldn't ask for a better situation, like I said, of a team that is going to have to score 30 some points a game to win. They're going to be throwing. It's inevitable, but like dynasty is where he's going to have a lot of value. It's crazy to say like he's a junior and all this stuff, but he's only 21 years old. Like all these other guys we're talking about are 23, 24 years old. Like you can get this guy in 2, 3 years. I mean, he's still going to be young. Like he's still going to be getting close to his prime, if not in his prime. Like if he can produce like he has in college, I understand the USC year was a little down, but make no mistake, if he wasn't a sophomore the year that he had his Blitnikoff year, he would have went to the draft. He would have been one of the top guys taken. But Kenny went to the league. His offensive coordinator went to the league. So he went, found a different situation. And unfortunately, some injuries and learning a new system didn't really pan out last year. But I think that if you don't think he's the best receiver in the draft, you can't deny I think he's in the best situation of any receiver in the draft. Like, there's no pressure being number one. you just are going to get what you're given, and I think that he's going to make the most of it. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity. Like I think you saw at the end of the year Justin Jefferson getting a lot of double coverages and stuff like that, and I think that there's just going to be a lot of room underneath, and I think Jordan Addison is going to eat, man. I really do. I'm a big fan of his work, and I think it's going to continue into the NFL. I think it's going to translate great. Also, Jordan Addison, we saw you seeing some of the content, man. Appreciate it. Drop a like, comment.
For sure. We appreciate,
Yeah.
hey, there's no like or comment, but we appreciate the view. So that was pretty cool, man. I'm gonna hop on with you on this wagon. I got Jordan Addison too at number one. With the Vikings taking him, I believe it's instant production. I think not only does he become wide receiver two right away, all the attention, like you said, is going to be on Justin Jefferson, giving this young talented receiver the ability to flourish in his new home. Um, you mentioned Thielen, putting your eggs in Thielen. Thielen's now in Carolina. Those 107 targets, yes, Thielen had 107 targets. Those
Yeah.
targets have to go somewhere. And if you expect most of those targets to go to Hawkinson, you're crazy. So I'm putting all my eggs for this rookie receiver in Jordan Addison. Um, we saw when Diggs left town, right? He was in Minnesota. They drafted a receiver by the name of Justin Jefferson. What happened with that wide receiver production? Not saying he's the next Justin Jefferson caliber right off the rip, but he's going to see his fair share of targets starting week one. So, like you said, I'm backing you up on the Jordan Addison train, and he's my number one as well.
Yeah, man. I said his value in dynasty leagues. I think he has incredible value in redraft leagues as well. I mean, I think his value is I mean, of wide receiver twos, it's going to be up there. I mean, I think as the tapes come out, as you know, we start hearing stuff. I think that there's going to be a lot of excitement about Jordan Addison, and rightfully so. Uh, it's a lot of
Talent.
talent in a lot of great situation there.
You just
It's
hit it right on the head. We don't agree on much, but you just took the words right out of my mouth. So
yep.
you can clip that one. That's perfection on Baney's part. Finally, a good take out of the kid.
Hey, somebody's got to do it.
But that will wrap up episode 5 of the top 5 rookie receivers. We appreciate you guys sticking with us here. All the loves, likes, shares. You can find us on all socials. We are now on the new thread as well. Yes, the new thread, Twitter 2.0. We're also streaming on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. But again, we appreciate the love. And until next time.
Let them know.